Hi friends, welcome back to the channel, and this is your daily news. So we go over the top headlines of the day. I share my thoughts and get yours as well. So let's jump right in. Bank of Canada, they're raising rates. Read the headlines. Bank of Canada lifts rates to 4.75% with economy overheating. Moreover, we'll take a look at the statement from the Bank of Canada. Coming from Canada, they say, globally, consumer price inflation is coming down, right? So they're saying inflation is coming down globally. However, they make another point here. They say largely reflecting lower energy prices compared to a year ago. So they're saying inflation is coming down, but it's energy. However, we know recently Saudi Arabia was saying like, yo, we're going to be cutting production. Let's look more what they have to say. Canada also says though, but underlying inflation remains stubbornly high. So things have come down from a year ago, but inflation is still high. And they use the word stubbornly, meaning like it won't come down. Moreover, they say from Canada, while economic growth around the world is softening in the face of higher interest rates, major central banks are signaling that interest rates may have to rise further to restore price stability. So, yes, things are slowing, Canada is saying, but they are saying it looks like around the world they may have to keep raising rates. So Canada raised rates today. They also make some statements regarding different regions around the world. So let's take a look at what Canada has to say. They say, in the United States, the economy is slowing, although consumer spending remains surprisingly resilient and the labor market is still tight. So I think this part is really interesting where they use the word surprisingly resilient, talking about consumer spending. And when you talk about the USA, 70% of the economy is consumer spending, and essentially people are still spending. And I always throw out the same number, but I just want to remind you again, if you don't know, 38.5% of Americans are essentially can't pay their daily bills. They have to throw stuff on their credit card, rising fuel costs, rising food costs, these kind of things. And rents are still high. So people are struggling. However, they are able to spend, but when they hit their credit limits, when interest rates get even higher, and essentially they start to get underwater with payments, I think we are going to have something break. I just think so. And also, too, Canada's even saying it's surprising that Americans are still spending. However, if you look at some of the retail forecasts coming out from various companies, like I'll just use the example of Macy's, they say people are going to slow down. However, according to Apple, if you ask Tim Cook, you say, hey, Tim Cook, who's going to buy your $3,500 headset? Tim Cook's like, you never know. We're Apple. We're so cool. And we think people have the money. So I wouldn't necessarily trust Tim Cook on that one. I do think things should be slowing. But let's just keep looking at more what Canada has to say. I just do think it's interesting to use the language of surprisingly resilient. Moreover, Canada says economic growth has essentially stalled in Europe, but upward pressure on core prices is persisting, right? So Europe's not growing yet. Inflation is still there. I'm talking about China here. Growth in China is expected to slow after surging in the first quarter. And then lastly, financial conditions have tightened back to those seen before bank failures in the United States and Switzerland. So Bank of Canada raised their rates, and they think that more countries may do so also. Someone asked me in the comments about this one, and I looked it up. This is regarding UFOs. Like I said, we took the top headlines. And it's funny, the first thing that came up to me was that the UFO clothing store is closed. So if you wanted to buy your UFO clothes and you're in Maryland, you're out of luck. So sorry about that. But jokingly aside, there was a guy, he's like a former Air Force officer, and he was making the claims. He's a whistleblower saying that the USA's got a whole bunch of UFOs, is basically what he's saying. And I watched the interview myself. I read through the article. I'm not going to come out and say right away that aliens don't exist. I'm not going to say that, something like that, because I think there's a high chance that they do. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we have their spaceships. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have the alien pilots, because that's essentially what this guy's claiming. And unfortunately, there's no photos. There's no corroborating evidence. He just says, hey, trust me, bro. And a bunch of people have supposedly reached out to him and shared a bunch of things. And they're also making the case that he can't share anything because it's classified. So it's hard to really take this stuff seriously. Other than, I'm just sharing my honest thoughts. I think there's a possibility that aliens do exist. But, whether or not we have a bunch of spaceships, in storage somewhere, I just don't see any evidence of that. And I'd be curious if you guys agree or disagree with my assessment of that. So I think this is important to, live in the world of show me the evidence, and I'll see it when I'll believe it when I see it. It's the best way to see it. Let's keep going on. Also, too, and this sort of relates to the UFO thing or anything you do in media. So here in this headline, you can see it for yourself. CNN CEO Chris Licht out after Trump town hall fallout. Brutal Atlantic article. basically, and I'll say full disclosure, I don't like Fox News, I don't like CNN, and it makes it really tough in this landscape if you're trying to do news content on YouTube or otherwise to not pick a side because people really want you to pick a side. People really want you to be entertaining, and people really want you to say, oh, my side is right, your side is wrong, that kind of stuff. I don't like to play that game. CNN, essentially what they're trying to do is just to go, full on blow on entertainment, Fox News style. I guess it backfired because their kind of top anchors didn't really like what happened. All I have to say is I don't really like them that much, and I have no qualm saying that. But this is the reality. For a lot of these stations, they go way to the more entertainment side. And my personal opinion on this stuff is being informed in itself should be entertaining, but I do understand you have to do entertainment. Literally, I just did a UFO story, so there, it is what it is. You guys can figure that out. Moving on. U.S. mortgage application purchases for drop for the fourth week. So basically, this is how I read this. We know Canada just raised interest rates. We know the USA is going to make a determination soon, but you keep prices elevated, right? In terms of houses, you keep interest rates up as well. People are like, you know what? I'm not gonna buy a house now. Everyone kind of expecting things to go down. Now it depends on the market that you're in. Okay. I talk to lots of different people, friends of mine, and we see people on the channel and say, hey, what's it like in your market? Are you looking to buy, etc. Evidently, right? People are certainly slowing on these things. I did see one article where cash purchases were up, but I think for the regular person, to pay cash for a house isn't necessarily a normal thing. I think for the average people, we have to get a mortgage to get a house because you need a X amount of dollars to buy said house. With the interest rates elevated and I think prices still high, I still think real estate prices will come down. We also know that there's probably a coming storm with commercial real estate. So my personal opinion is maybe by next year will be a good time to buy, but it's going to depend on your market. And it's also going to depend on, like if you see a particular home that you like and you like the price and you got the money, you do what makes sense for you. But like I said, in my opinion, I do think things will come down a bit. But again, it depends on the market that you're in. Moreover, let's take a look at this. Janet Yellen, her opinion is that she sees headlines. Treasury Secretary Yellen says she wouldn't be surprised to see more bank consolidation. And it's actually really interesting because there's been a lot of things coming out about like, is the banking crisis over or not? They try to be really careful on their language. Just talking about they meaning the government, either Janet Yellen or Powell. You can talk about President Biden, one of these people. And so when she's saying, "Hey, we can see more bank consolidation," I actually think things could be worse than they're want to sort of tip us off to. And that's my thoughts on that. Worse in the sense of that. If indeed that we have that, and I think it all starts with commercial real estate, to be perfectly frank, and that goes back to the work from home stuff, which we've talked about before on the channel several times, meaning that people just aren't going to the office anymore, so commercial real estate prices will go down, which will in turn should affect regular real estate price, residential real estate price, I should say. So I would think so. And it's actually interesting that she's saying, we're going to see more consolidation in the banking, meaning that like the bigger ones are going to buy the smaller ones. There was like a, I won't say interview. There was like a basic reporter put a microphone in CEO of JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon's face and said, "Hey, are you going to buy more banks?" He's like, "No," but if the price is right, I'm sure that they will. And I don't think this is a good thing. To have more consolidation in the banking industry. It was similar to the thing where I talked about before with you guys earlier, where if Amazon gets into the cell phone business, right, offering, I think it was with their Prime membership, offering you phone service to where, it starts to wipe out, be it AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, etc., and then you just have essentially one provider of these things. I think anytime you have too much consolidation, not so great. However, to be fair, talking about the banking industry, there are way too many banks, and some of these are probably going to fail. So we will see with this, but even Yellen thinks there's going to be more consolidation. And this interesting story as well, related to the commercial real estate thing. So Salesforce is trying to get people to come back to the office. And if you read the headlines here, I'll read it for you. It's funny. It says, Salesforce wants employees back in the office so badly that is donating $10 to local charity for every day an employee comes into work. And I find this one funny because if I have a work from home job, right, and I'm happy, sitting in my bedroom or happy sitting in my bed or sitting on my couch doing my work on my laptop, and I'm like, not wearing pants. And my boss is like, hey, come into work. We'll donate to charity if you do. I'm thinking, no, if I'm going to come into work, you're going to like pay me more money. That's all I want. So this idea that they don't do charity will convince people to come to work, I think it's laughable. However, it might work. I'll be curious your guys' thoughts on it if you're on my side or you think Salesforce is doing the right thing. So anyway, that's the daily news. I think the Bacon Canada thing is the top story. Also, too, I mentioned in a prior video, be careful with air quality. And true story, this is my third time trying to record this video because my nose keeps running and I just don't feel good today. Sore throat, runny nose. Essentially, I think it is the air quality, and it's pretty bad right now. So please be safe out there. Someone just wrote in the comments that their parents are in Canada and they had to evacuate their cities. So I'm not making any jokes about this, but I'll be very, very safe. This is no joke. If there's a big forest fire and it's coming to your house, I mean, just, you can lose everything. I mean, you can, lose everything. And it's really quite serious. So please be careful out there, guys. That's why I can't stress that enough. Be very, very careful. So thanks again for watching. I always appreciate it. And I'll catch you next video.